Hey, welcome to Think Thursday from the Alcohol Minimalist Podcast. Think Thursday is all about your beautiful, brilliant human brain. We're talking neuroscience. We're talking behavior change. We are talking about your mindset. Are you ready to get started? Let's go. Hey there, it's Molly, and welcome back to another Think Thursday episode from the Alcohol Minimalist. As we move deeper into December, there's a feeling in the air that has nothing to do with the weather or the decorations. It's something happening inside our brains. This entire month is wrapped in anticipation. We anticipate gatherings. We anticipate stress. We anticipate joy. We anticipate disappointments. We anticipate opportunities. We anticipate January and all that pressure that comes with it. New routines, fresh starts, maybe dry January, and the future me will figure this out mindset. Anticipation is everywhere right now, and it's not just psychological. There is actually hard science behind why anticipation feels so powerful, so emotional, and sometimes so overwhelming. In many ways, our brains experience the future long before it gets here. And today we're diving into the neuroscience of anticipation, the systems in the brain that predict what's coming, how imagining the future changes our emotional state in the present, and why anticipation can be more pleasurable than the actual reward, and basically how all of this connects to behavior change. So this episode will tie into some newer studies, including a 2023 paper from the journal Neuron on the brain's prospection network, and recent imaging studies showing that anticipating an event actually activates the same brain regions used for memory, decision-making, and emotional regulation. Understanding anticipation is especially useful in December for sure, and simply because our brains are doing a lot of it right now. And with a little insight, we can use anticipation as a force for clarity, not overwhelm. Let's get into it. One of the most surprising things researchers have learned is that the brain is not primarily reactive, it is predictive. Its job is not just to respond to what happens, but to anticipate what will happen next. And I've said that before on the podcast, that the brain is actually a prediction machine. A well-known 2023 review in Neuron described this as the prospection network, which includes the prefrontal cortex, the hippocampus, parts of the default mode network, and deeper limbic structures related to emotion and reward. And this network stimulates possible futures, evaluates them, and prepares the body accordingly. This is important because your brain experiences anticipation physiologically, not just mentally. If you anticipate stress, your heart rate changes. If you anticipate pleasure, dopamine rises. If you anticipate fear, your amygdala primes you for vigilance. Another fascinating study from the University College London showed that during anticipation, especially anticipatory uncertainty, the brain releases more dopamine than during the reward itself. That means the looking forward can be more stimulating than the actual event. And I don't know about you, but I was thinking about this with regards to Christmas Eve. When my kids were small, the anticipation of Christmas morning, they would get themselves so ramped up. I remember my oldest actually almost in tears because he was so excited that he could not go to sleep. He was so, he'd gotten himself so wound up looking forward to Christmas morning. And of course, the next morning, he was the one that acted sort of disappointed in what was happening and the things that the actual gifts and just the event of Christmas morning. And I think that is something we can all relate to. Maybe it's why planning a vacation can actually feel better than the vacation. Thinking about dessert feels more exciting than the last bite. And of course, for those of us that are here because we've developed a habit around alcohol, the anticipation of drinking triggers more craving than the alcohol itself. Anticipation isn't a preview, it's an experience. And when we think about it that way and understand it that way, it helps us to prepare for it in a different way. Let's talk about why December amplifies this. December is loaded with emotional forecasts. We anticipate how gatherings will go. We anticipate conversations we might have with family members. We anticipate traditions, comparisons, disappointments, nostalgia, joy, and we anticipate exhaustion. Our brains are not just remembering the past holidays. They are predicting this year's holidays based on those memories. And this is why people often say December feels big or intense, not always because of what's actually happening, but because of what we expect will happen. And this also influences people's drinking habits, their eating habits, their spending habits, because many of our patterns of those behaviors are anticipatory, not reactive. We think the party's coming up. I need to prepare. So we might have a drink. Tonight will be stressful. I'll probably want a drink or I'll want to eat something comforting. The holidays are hard and I think I want to just have an extra drink, right? Notice that none of that is actually about the present moment. It's all about anticipation of the future. And anticipation can either amplify anxiety or create an opportunity for intentionality. Another interesting finding, the brain often reacts to future you the same way it reacts to a stranger. An MRI study from Stanford, published in Nature Neuroscience, revealed that when people think about themselves far in the future, the medial prefrontal cortex becomes less active. And that is the same pattern seen when we think about people we don't know very well. This is why we say things like, future me will handle that, or future me will start that routine, future me will drink less, and future me will figure out January. The brain literally discounts the emotional weight of future you's experience. So in December, we tend to push resolutions, habits, intentions onto this other person in our minds. But anticipating a better future without aligning behavior in the present often leads to disappointment and self-blame later. And this is where awareness becomes powerful. If the brain treats future you like a stranger, then behavior change must focus on building a relationship with that future self, not waiting for her to magically appear on January 1st. So let's come back to dopamine, because it does play a starring role. Dopamine is not just the feel-good chemical, the pleasure chemical, which I think everybody kind of equates it with. It is the anticipation chemical. It surges when the brain predicts something rewarding. Studies from the University of Michigan and the Max Planck Institute show that dopamine spikes the most during the moment before a reward, the moment you imagine relief, and whenever something is uncertain but potentially beneficial. So when you're not sure but you think it's going to be great, dopamine surges. And this helps explain why cravings often feel stronger than the actual drinking itself. Anxiety often peaks before a family event, not during it. And we sometimes feel overwhelmed anticipating the holiday season, even if the actual moments during it are relatively calm. Your brain is constantly forecasting and adjusting its chemistry accordingly. The good news, we can influence what it anticipates. When you practice intentional anticipation, imagining scenarios where you feel grounded, where you feel calm, where you feel capable, you begin priming your nervous system in a different direction. And this is where anticipation becomes a skill and not just a stressor. Here are a few practical ways to use anticipation to support your own well-being and actually create positive change towards your changing habits that don't serve you. First, anticipate the emotional landscape, not the event. Instead of saying, I'm worried the dinner will be stressful, you can reframe to, I know my stress tends to rise during gatherings, so I'm going to plan for grounding. You are anticipating your inner world, not the external world. And this aligns beautifully with the episode that I did just recently on defensive pessimism. You are using your brain's anticipatory system to prepare, not panic. Rehearse the identity you want to bring with you. Research from the University of Pennsylvania shows that imagining ourselves acting in alignment with our values activates the same neural pathways used during the actual behavior. And this is mental rehearsal. Athletes use it, musicians use it, you can use it too. It's literally a dress rehearsal in your brain. Number 3, shorten the distance to future you. Ask questions like, what will tonight's version of me thank me for? What does tomorrow morning's me need? This helps the brain treat future you more like current you, right? We just want to bring the future closer to us. Anticipate urges with curiosity, not fear. Urges are largely anticipatory. They're forecasts of relief. When you anticipate an urge with openness rather than dread, the nervous system softens. And number 5, create micro anticipations that are grounding. Instead of anticipating stress, intentionally anticipate the first sip of a warm cup of tea, the feeling of stepping outside after dinner, the small moment you'll take for yourself later, the feeling of waking up proud because you stuck to your plans tomorrow. These create dopamine pathways that reinforce your well-being, and they are intentional, and you can create those micro anticipations, and that those can be very grounding for you. There's one more layer to this conversation. Anticipation doesn't just influence how you feel, it influences how you interpret events. A 2024 study in Psychological Science showed that people who practiced positive anticipatory framing rated stressful events as significantly more manageable afterward, even when the events didn't change. Your expectations become part of your experience. And December has a way of magnifying expectations, right? We've talked about that. And sometimes those expectations and those magnifications are unrealistic. But when you understand the neuroscience of anticipation, you gain something powerful, the ability to shape the emotional tone of what's coming, rather than simply bracing for it. So that's the takeaway for this Think Thursday. Your brain is already living in the future. It simulates, it predicts, it prepares, and it responds based on what it expects. You can't stop anticipation. It's built into your neurology. But you can shape it You can soften it. You can work with it instead of letting it run unchecked. And when you do, December feels less overwhelming and more intentional. The holidays feel less reactive and more grounded. And you can begin building a relationship with your future self that makes behavior change feel possible, not just in January, but right now. That's what I have for you today, my friends. Until next time, choose peace, and I will see you on Monday.